Recapping on yesterday's very influential speeches and talks, I would be taking it on from Mr. Imtiaz's presentation and his question about the transfer of understanding and whether is it possible or not, and what are we doing about it in education, not necessarily from the understanding by design perspective or the universal design of learning perspective. There are lots of approaches towards curriculum design out there, but it's kind of another approach to zoom out from the knowledge that is being transferred over and over from generation to generation towards a more holistic approach. So I'd be specifically speaking about the concept-based inquiry in the classroom, and specifically for K-12 education, pre-university education. This approach has been produced and introduced specifically by Lynn Erickson in the 90s, early 1990s. And concept-based curriculum and instruction book was authored by her and co-authored by Lois Lanning, who then proposed a complementary model for the process, the structure of process. So Lynn Erickson proposed the structure of knowledge, and Lois Lanning proposed the structure of process. And we will see what's the difference between both of them in a moment. And the concept-based curriculum and structure for the thinking classroom was authored by Lynn Erickson, Lois Lanning, and co-authored as well by Rachel French, who is currently the director of Professional Learning Institute, which is the institute based in The Hague, in New Zealand, but they have just had their conferences in The Hague last year, that train teachers all over the world on an annual basis on the concept-based inquiry in the classroom, which is the conceptual understanding proposition that was adopted by the IB many, many years ago and introduced to the unit planning process in the MYP and the PYP, the program of primary and the program of middle years. Now, basically, we all know that education has started simply by the fact of transferring knowledge, transferring content, transferring facts. That was a one-dimensional approach. Moving forward, as life gets harder, we understand that our learners and our youngsters need more skills to actually implement these facts and this knowledge. So this proposed a two-dimensional way of teaching. I'm teaching facts and I'm teaching skills. Then this proposition here is basically approaching education from a three-dimensional approach. And that's why people here who have experience with the IB say that the IB teacher should be always a three-dimensional, a 3D teacher, and the learner should be always a 3D learner. So the third dimension is basically the conceptual understanding. So you zoom out from the facts to a generalization, to a bigger picture that links subject groups together. Hence, the ability to create interdisciplinary approaches. Of course, we know the fourth dimension now, basically, is the social emotional learning. So we should not ever, of course, disregard this important factor, especially after the pandemic. We mentioned this yesterday, especially when we were speaking about education for sustainable development and the importance of increasing the well-being and the mental health awareness to our young learners at that age. So these are basically the four-dimensional educational approaches in a nutshell. When we speak about concepts and facts and how they marry together in this relationship for the learner to develop the intellect and increase the motivation for learning. This is the basic reason for that. We all suffer from motivation. Students are not motivated to learn. They come for school and they come to school every day, but asking the question why. This model answers the question why, should help you to answer the question why. We should always encourage learners to ask us why. Why am I learning this? Why am I learning it this way? Why am I learning it that way? So accordingly, to link the bigger picture together, this is the approach to do so. And the synergy is linking up this or these bigger pictures together. Basically, when we say about the difference between a concept and a fact, this is what all learners need to know throughout the structure of knowledge and the structure of process, which we will be showing in this slide. So Lynn Erickson provided this structure based upon the idea that if you group many facts together, that creates a topic. And that topic is under a specific subject, for example. And then you group multiple topics together, and this creates the specific subject. There's a theme of it, whether it's science, whether it's history, geography, business, psychology, whatnot. And then it's a bottom-up model, so we start from bottom as we just did. The concepts, which are the generalizations, lead to a bigger generalization. You need to look at the topic from a conceptual lens, which we will be speaking about in a moment. The idea of these concepts that are linking and in a synergistic way the topics and the facts together is the purpose of learning, not the other way around. So we need the learners to learn the concepts through the facts and the topics, not the other way around. And accordingly, as you move up, and we will explain each and every point, you move to the generalization that moves up to the principle, and then in the university level, you get to the theory behind all of this. That was developed 1995. Then Lois Lanning came in 2012 to develop the structure of process. And basically, this is based upon the understanding that some subjects are inclined to having more knowledge and content base, and some subjects are inclined to having more process, strategies, and skills. So to differentiate between both, like for example, PE, design, arts, and languages are more skill-based, they're more process-based. They do have knowledge bits, of course. And the other way around, like INS, social studies, history, sciences, they are more knowledge-based than skill-based. It doesn't mean that these subjects don't have skills or that subjects don't have knowledge. So basically, depending on these two theories and these two structures, structure of knowledge and the structure of process, that's in the theory part, the practice will come in terms of the unit planning and in terms of the lesson planning. So to give it a more focus on the structure of knowledge, basically, the topics and the difference between a topic and a concept is basically the inclination of the limitation of the topic into time constraints and space or place constraints, or a situation. Like, for example, I'm teaching history, so I'm just teaching the effect of the, for example, French colonization on Egypt from this time to that time, full stop. So students will just go and memorize in a conforming way and put it in the test. So these are facts. Based upon these facts, this topic is taught to the learners. Now the concepts, if you move up again, they are the mental constructs that frame a set of examples sharing common attributes. So of course, it is not limited to time nor space, and that's what makes it a concept. The generalization, so you group multiple concepts together, whether macro level or on the micro level, so that you are intentionally structuring your unit plan so that your learners learn these concepts. And there are multiple concepts. The IB, especially in the MYP, focuses on a couple of concepts so that you can create your statement of inquiry accordingly and move on with it for 6 to 8 weeks. Now, the CBCI, the Concept-Based Curriculum Institute, focuses on adding more concepts, which is the fact, so that you are able to teach the students more concepts throughout this unit in a holistic and integrated way. These concepts are grouped into generalizations. Each unit plan has from 7 to 9 generalizations. And then they might or might not lead to a principle. It depends, because a generalization always has a qualifier. It always encourages students to think whether this generalization or this statement is true or false. That's why it pushes our learners to inquiry. And then the theory, as we mentioned, basically at the university level, a supposition or set of conceptual ideas used to explain the phenomena or practice. That's an example. Let's just go to the practice part. So if this is the topic that I'm teaching, global migration in the 21st century in social studies, how am I going to conceptualize it? I'm going to think of multiple concepts, whether macro or micro, to link to this specific topic. And then I'm going to group these concepts into a generalization that starts with the students understand that. So the 3 dimensions of learning we mentioned, they are concepts, knowledge, and skills in the beginning of the talk. So concepts, what I need students to understand. Knowledge, what I need students to know. Skills, what I need students to do. So understanding, knowledge, and knowing and doing, they are the 3 transferable notions of education. So here I am conceptualizing the curriculum by a couple of statements, or maybe 3, or maybe more, whatever. So this is, and here specifically is the notion of transforming the teacher from just delivering what's in the book to actually being a composer and a content creator and a curriculum designer, himself or herself. And that's the beauty of it. When you produce your own curriculum, you are better than anyone else able to transfer it with all its notions, whether conceptual, factual, or from the skill point of view. That's the structure of knowledge, right? So moving to the structure of process. Do you notice any difference? Thumbs up, yes, of course, right. So basically, instead of the facts here, we have skills that lead to strategies to create a process. And then we generalize by the concepts, principles, and theory. It's the same. So in the bottom part, it's different, but in the up, it's the same. What's an example? In writing, for example. Languages is a process-based subject. So I would take writing as a whole as a process, and I would look into the strategies of writing, focusing a little bit, zooming in, text organization, for example, and then I'm going to zoom in a little bit more about the skills that are needed for a learner to organize the text, like creating a hook to draw readers, presenting ideas in logical sequence, and so on and so forth. Of course, this is a very text-heavy slide. I'm not going to go through it. I'm going to skip it for later. But that's an example. So this is arts, visual arts, drawing. And the title of the unit is landscape drawing. So the process that I am teaching is drawing, as simple as that. But what are the concepts that I would like to link here, that I would like to synergize in a generalization? Shape, distance, depth, illusion, object, vanishing points. So this would be creating a cohesive statement that starts with the students understand that, connecting 2 or more points on a shape or an object to a vanishing point, create the illusion of distance or depth. So this is the starter of the unit. And Lynn Erickson has a very beautiful saying. She says, if we start by introducing the generalization, or in the IB statement of inquiry, for example, to the students and the learners, and they understand it, there is no need to teach the unit. Because that's what I need to teach. So this is the end in mind. Mr. Imtiaz was speaking about beginning with the end in mind yesterday. So basically, this conceptual understanding statement, call it whatever you call it, statement of inquiry, generalization, needs to be accessible for the student's age group as much as possible, and not to be complicated. So these are the 2 structures, and I really invite you to read about it if that's if that's the first time you are introduced to it. Now, the conceptual lens. What is the importance of the conceptual lens? It's basically to create this depth in learning and the synergy between subjects and the synergy between concepts within the same subject. So if I am teaching significant individuals in history, I'm speaking about people. They are significant in the history. But how am I tackling them? How can this be taught in social studies, in religion, in even science, in many other subjects? So it depends on the conceptual lens. It depends how am I approaching them. So from the leadership perspective, that can be in PSHE, that can be in advisory lesson, that can be in social emotional learning. From the leadership perspective, I'm teaching leadership. Power and change, this can be from social studies and developing societies. Beliefs and values, this could be from religious subjects. Oppression, maybe also history, social studies. Innovation, maybe from the technology, design, ICT, and so on and so forth. So looking at a topic through a conceptual lens engages the personal intellect and emotions of the student. And that's what creates motivation and depth in learning. And it creates a deeper level of understanding. And this is what we are all basically, or many of us are suffering from, again, how to motivate our students to learn what we need them to learn, which is actually what they need to learn. Sample of conceptual lenses, many concepts out here. And of course, it's not limited. The IB sometimes, especially in the MYP, limits some concepts and limits the teachers to choose some concepts. The CBCI has it open. And I would sum up and wrap up with this theory that is also developed by Lynn Erickson, the negative and the positive motivational theory. And this is why, the why behind the conceptual understanding, because we encourage students to know the why behind their learning, so we need to discuss the why. Am I discussing this today as well? So basically in learning, if we look at the arrow, this first arrow, the factual knowledge and the cognitive load starts to increase as students and learners grow. From grades K to 3, all learners come to school very excited. That's why their teachers in primary are very excited and very happy to see them. They are all over the place. And as they go older and older, our struggles in middle school and high school increase and increase and increase, behavioral-wise, motivational-wise, and so on. So she has come up with research that the reason is that the conceptual engagement drops. As learners go higher in age, knowledge gets more, content gets more, and concepts get less. Or the link between knowledge and concepts get less, let's say. And the articulation, the clear articulation. So this leads to this drop in motivation from grades 4 to 12. What we need it to be is that they both grow together. That's hence the model of conceptual understanding, and hence the importance of focusing on deepening the understanding of our learners. Maybe just to go through this in 1 minute. So that's the last slide. Basically, it is designed to prepare the learners to link and synergize between the notions of the curriculum. And this institute with Rachel French, they are giving workshops for teachers, and we hopefully will bring them to Saudi, inshallah. She has never been to Saudi before. She was just in Egypt last week. And I just think that this would be a very, very good opportunity for her to develop workshops here and with us as well. There is the Concept-Based Curriculum Institute certifies trainers as well every year. I was certified a couple of years ago to train teachers on it. And we hope to see more and more in the kingdom. Whether you are in an IB school or not, that's the beauty of it. You can implement these approaches towards deepening the learning. And Thank you.